UPORTE. Stop by to see and feel the quality at United Forte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's UPORTE.com.
There's something you can do today that will impact all your tomorrows. Open an AZ 529 Education Savings Plan. Contribute just $50 a month, and you'll have nearly $20,000 by your child's high school graduation or as a great start towards your own education savings. Your money grows tax-free and can be used for college, vocational school, or workforce training. Learn more at az529.gov. Do it today for all your tomorrows.
This message is sponsored by the Office of the Arizona State Treasurer.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM. Wherever you go, take us along. Listen to our live stream on our free Fanatic app. Download it today.
And welcome back to Beat the Book here on a Friday afternoon, and we have a lot to get into. We've got a college football game to break down. Absolutely thrilling game last night. We'll get into that. We'll talk about the Suns for a little bit. They got the win over the Hawks, even though we thought that they would not actually get that done. We'll get into the NFC West playoff matchup, segment 2. You know how it goes. Alex Kane, CEO of Sport Trade, will be here, and he will be revealing the rules of this week's win probability contest. Does not involve the Cardinals, so you're going to have to listen around and see who, in fact, it is. And then in the third segment, we'll get you the picks for today, which, of course, include tonight's college football game and a couple of NBA games as well. I'm Keon Rose. Alongside me is Dylan Cohen, our betting expert in the building. We're broadcasting live from Harmon Solar Studios, and you're on the text line at 888-368-1580. Dylan, before we get to any and all of those things, who powers the show?
That would be Sport Trade. And if you have not already, make sure you download Sport Trade, on your smartphone and use promo code 1580 to take advantage of their 10% cashback promotion on all the wagers that you place in your first week. And just like Keon mentioned, make sure you stick around for segment 2. Alex Kane will be joining us once again. He is the CEO of Sport Trade. He will be rolling out the next Sport Trade win probability contest. Historically, we've been doing this for Arizona Cardinals games, but there's no more Arizona Cardinals games. They were eliminated from any ability to compete in the postseason. So we're going to have to switch things up. It's going to be on a different NFL playoff game. Make sure you tune in for segment 2. Alex is going to go through all the rules, the prizes, of course, a $100 Amazon gift card and $50 in cash sent directly to your Sport Trade account for you to play some extra wagers with. So make sure you get the app downloaded, get your account set up, and that way you'll be all good to go if you do happen to win the Sport Trade implied probability contest this weekend. Now, with all that being said, let's get down to business here, Keon. And I think the best place to start is going to be with the Orange Bowl game that we had last night. One of the criticisms that's been thrown around throughout the entire college football playoff is just the lack of, really intense, high quality games that come down to the wire. We haven't been seeing a whole lot of these. And then everyone points the finger at the committee and says, shame on you. You didn't put together good matchups, rah. It's kind of laughable to look back at it now.
This is what we could have expected, though, because there's always been like this in college football. There's a top tier of teams, and then there's a second group of teams, and the gap between that top tier and that second tier usually is pretty big. Like, that just generally is how it works. Maybe ASU obviously being that one exception of a team you would have put in that second tier that punched so far above their weight class that, quite frankly, a controversial penalty is the only reason why they're not playing tonight. So I do think that for the most part, people are right about what we got. And I don't know that you can necessarily blame the committee for that, though. That's just what's going to happen if you expand the playoff. And here we are.
Exactly. I mean, it really just comes with the territory. Luckily, as we've gotten deeper and deeper into the playoffs, it seems to, start to get rid of, the riffraff, the teams that maybe shouldn't have actually been there. And then you're left with the true competitors. And last night was a game between a couple of teams that honestly were true competitors in Penn State and Notre Dame. And, we talked quite a bit about this game yesterday. The line was essentially priced very close to a pick 'em. It was, leaning towards Penn State at times during the week. It was going back to Notre Dame at times. And then right as kickoff started, I believe it closed with Notre Dame as a very slight favorite. But this is one that went all the way down to the wire. It was tied at 24-24. Notre Dame had the ball driving to try and pull off a field goal for the win. They ended up getting a 3-and-out, kicking back to Penn State. All of a sudden, Penn State has time on the clock, timeouts, all the chance in the world to be able to get that final field goal kick for the win. And what happens? Drew Allard,
who I don't want to pile on too much because despite the fact that NIL exists and he is getting paid, he's still a college student. I'm not going to, pile on him like I'd pile on an NFL player. You've been a professional athlete for how long? You know better. Drew should have known better, but not the same way that like a 10-year NFL vet should have known better. So I'm not going to pile on him, but literally he threw that interception and the first words out of my mouth were, Drew Allard, you bleeping blockhead. Maybe it's because, I just genuinely wanted to be correct about that pick, but I was just like, I can't believe you threw that. Like, I actually can't believe he was already in the process of being sacked. He could have thrown the ball in any direction or not thrown it at all. Just take the sack. What's the worst that could happen besides you punt it again?
It was very generous of him. I'm very grateful. And
for you personally, yeah.
Right. Look, my pick yesterday was Notre Dame.
Might as well make you money if it's gonna work in your favor that way.
Right. And look, I mean, it was a thrilling finish. Notre Dame ends up recovering this interception. They get it into field goal range. They take the final kick. They win. Final score 27-24. And along with this show, we do have a website where we are posting recommended bets to make each day. So hopefully you checked that out yesterday because our pick was on Notre Dame to win money line, which they did pull off. We had a 6-3 day again yesterday. One of the picks got voided. So for the most part this week, been doing very, very well on those picks. Make sure you check out the post for today. There are picks for NBA tonight, as well as the Cotton Bowl game going on later. There's picks for NFL on Saturday and Sunday. So don't miss out on that. You can just search in your browser, Beat the Book Fanatic or Beat the Book Dylan Cohen. Either of those things should take you to the place that you need to get to. You can also follow me on Instagram. The handle is at Beat the Book Fanatic, all spelled out. If you hit the link in the bio, that'll take you right to the Beat the Book site so you can see what these bets are that we are recommending. Now, with that being said, and I mentioned this to you before we went on, Keon, because I thought this was just like wild. I want to get your thoughts on this game overall. But I pointed out to you, and this is crazy. It's gonna sound crazy when you hear this, and you won't even believe it until you look it up in the box score.
I also had to look it up, even though I watched the game. I guess it just didn't register while I was watching it. But you put out the stat.
Penn State did not complete a single reception last night to a wide receiver. All wide receivers on that team, 0 receptions.
All the pass catchers you saw and all the passes completed that you saw were running backs and tight ends.
Yeah.
No receivers.
No receivers whatsoever. So I thought that was a pretty interesting stat. Overall, though, Keon, I mean, any thoughts, any reflections? Do you think Notre Dame has a remote chance of beating Ohio State or Texas, whoever comes out of this Cotton Bowl tonight?
Personally, I do not. I don't. I think that Notre Dame, the offense that they saw last night is in no way even in the same league as the two offenses on the other side of that bracket, whether we're talking about Ohio State or Texas. And I know I'm a Texas fan, but I'm saying if Ohio State wins it, I don't know if you've noticed what Will Howard and those Ohio State Buckeyes have been doing as of late. They have been running through people, an absolute buzzsaw, including an Oregon team that saw them already. And so you really think should have been more prepared. Oregon's had a really good defense this year. And Ohio State showed up ready from the word go. If they were to play that kind of game against Notre Dame, I think that game's over fairly quickly.
I would have to second that. So, on the one hand, we got treated to an awesome game last night. I think we're going to get treated to another awesome game tonight. I am a little concerned about what this national championship game is going to look like, because it just seems like
and we've had bad ones before. In fact, we've had bad ones involving Notre Dame before. Alabama, Notre Dame is like the last one, I think, with Notre Dame, and it was ugly. It was bad. Bama stomped them into the curb. It was one of the worst games I think I've ever seen for a national title.
So
I don't think this is going to be as bad, but boy,
it still could be.
It could be rough,
kind of bloodbathy.
just a little.
Just a little
I don't feel great about it. So some of the comments we're getting on the text line, we'll hold off on the Suns talk for just a second because we're about to get there. But Taco Kenny says, "How about that Notre Dame W, Playboys? Got to keep faith in God, and he'll provide Notre Dame with the win. Happy Friday." So there you go.
I love it.
Niner Napolis commenting on what I said before. He said I was celebrating the late game pick blockheadedness and the nice first half defense that allowed me to cash in a nice first half under, which was 21.5. And then the Notre Dame money line, which I'm glad I didn't. I almost took the under in that game total, and it looked good.
It looked good at first. No, it really did. I was thinking that as I was watching the first quarter, because they didn't even score until I think it was like the very, very end of the first quarter. Like it was holding out 0-0 all the way through. I was like, man, Keon, he knew.
Yeah. And then it just got out of hand at the very, very end. Both teams kind of feeling a little bit of desperation, like they had to throw the ball, and they just kept having these like terrible broken coverages on the back end that are uncharacteristic of both of those teams, quite frankly.
Yep. So let's go ahead and switch gears here, because if you happen to listen to Beat the Book yesterday, I went on quite the rant about our Phoenix Suns, trying to inject some accountability into the situation, just because it just didn't seem like people were really speaking about this whole situation with the honesty that it deserved. That was at least the way I was feeling yesterday. Mm-hmm. And of course, the day that I finally cave and I come on the air and I tell everyone to bet against the Suns, what happens? The Suns turn around and win. So, there's some part of me that was happy to see that. Look, I'm still a Suns fan at the end of the day. I don't like seeing my team go down in flames and just crash and burn. It was kind of looking like we were going to get that again last night. The Atlanta Hawks, they came out in this Suns game last night on fire from the 3-point line. I had texted you at one point.
67% shooting from three. You're like, this is unbelievable.
In the first half, as a team, the Hawks shot almost 67% from three. That is unheard of. Like when a team is having a good 3-point shooting night, like a good one, it's probably like over 45%. When they're having like a great 3-point shooting night, mid-50s. And that's even mid-50s is like, whoa. 67%. That was
you just can't miss at that
unreal point. I mean, and it was the Hawks had a 4-point lead at halftime. It was looking very much like, okay, if this shooting continues in the second half, there is nothing the Suns can do. And that really goes for like any team in the NBA. If you're going up against a team that is shooting 67% from three on you as a team,
it's time to start fouling people.
That's
I don't know how else you defend it.
Your prospects of winning in general, and I don't care if you're the Thunder, facing this. I don't care if you're the Celtics and this is happening to you. Like any team is going to face serious difficulty in trying to combat that kind of offensive production. Luckily for the Suns, third quarter rolled around, and the third quarter has really been the one that's been kind of the test for the Suns, because in the last 6-7 games where we've been on this slide, the third quarter is the one where we're just giving these games away. And instead we finally just tightened the screws. We played great defense. We limited the Hawks to only 20 points in the third quarter. Fourth quarter rolled around, the Hawks were still staying in it. We're rolling with the punches. We're countering them. We had 4 guys that scored 20 or more points last night. Beal, Booker, Durant, Grayson, Allen all get over 20 points. And I mean, if you're getting that kind of production out of 4 different guys on your team, that's how you counter, some other team that is just having a remarkable shooting performance.
Yeah, you just got to be more consistent than them. That's basically all you can do. Baker's cocky hands, a little distressed about the Suns game last night. He says, "Stupid Suns always bite me whether I bet for or against." But he did say, "But I got Notre Dame, baby, and Ohio State tonight. Let's keep rolling. I'm now 11-0 in the VSiN Jan Sanity contest. So good for you. And hey, keep it rolling."
Yeah,
and then Pickle D says, "I attended the Suns versus Hawks game last night, and as a fan of both teams, I was happy to see a good game. However, I was not happy that KD apparently had zero interest in rebounding. I only needed him to get 4 That was my only miss on a 16-leg parlay for the game. Pickle D, I'm sorry.
Sorry to hear that, man. Yeah, and look, here's the thing with the Suns. What just happened last night, it does not change anything. And I still feel very much about all the things that I've said about this team over the last, couple of shows that we've had this week. You have to keep in mind, like, our struggle right now is inconsistency. So yes, we just got a nice win against the 500 Atlanta Hawks last night. 19 wins, 19 losses now. Our next 5 games are against teams with a 500 record or worse. So we know who's on this Suns team. We know how good this team can be. I don't see any reason why we can't go 5-0 down this stretch. Like, if we go 5-0 down this stretch, that tells me, okay, maybe there is something here. Maybe this group of guys isn't, just completely worthless. But keep in mind, we beat Philadelphia. We fell flat on our face against the Hornets the next time. So here we go. We just beat the Hawks, and our next game, I want to say it's against the Pistons. I'm going to look this up right now real quickly because I know the Suns are in a home stretch right now. So
which could also help them kind of.
I'm sorry. It's actually the Utah Jazz. So even worse team than the Pistons. We have to beat the Utah Jazz at home tomorrow. That game tips off in the afternoon. If we do not beat the Utah Jazz tomorrow, then we are in the same exact place where we were 2 days ago after we just beat the Sixers. Like, and honestly, I mean, I want to give Atlanta some credit. They are a great team. They were missing Jalen Johnson, their second leading scorer. Atlanta may well end up making the playoffs this year, but that is not one of the elite teams in the league. Like, that's not going to be a win that, towards the end of the season, you're going to really like flex your muscles from that because, the Hawks are, just dominating, all the best teams in the league. Like, this was a very good morale win, but we're still at the bottom of the Pacific Division standings right now. We're 17-19. This Jimmy Butler trade dynamic, that's not going away. We're still doing our due diligence in trying to figure out a 3-team, 4-team arrangement to get Bradley Beal gone and to get Jimmy Butler back. So yes, great win from the Suns yesterday, but I stand by everything that I've said about this team and the situation this week. And going into that Jazz game tomorrow, I would still caution you about betting on the Suns. As crazy as that sounds, keep in mind, Suns were a 4.5-point favorite going into Charlotte. Really had no reason to lose that game. They lost it. So I'm not saying flat out don't bet against the Suns, but just be cautious with how you bet on them this weekend. That is my advice for the Suns at this point in time. Oh, by the way, just wanted to shout out Yusuf Nurkic last night. Got a good old DNP.
Seems like he's
the Tim Duncan treatment.
Yeah, seems like he's on the outs is what it feels like. And, we've seen that. We've seen that with his minutes, the way that his minutes have been reflected in they started off high. And then as Bud has kind of cooled on Nurkic throughout the season, the minutes have gone down. And finally just looks like Bud can't even use him at all. Like, not even as a bench guy, which is kind of crazy when you consider how good the bench was last night. If Yusuf Nurkic can't make that better, he does not have a spot on this team. And I'm sure that he's gone by the trade deadline.
To me, that was a sign that this has now kind of entered a new phase. And I mean, you still might see him in very, very limited doses, but it's almost going to be a little similar to how like the Wizards are using Jonas Valanciunas right now. We were talking about this the other day because it's like they know that they have a trade piece there. What they can't do is risk that guy getting injured, because then it's going to be much more difficult to try and trade him for some kind of an asset.
And no team's going to waive a physical. If they're trading for a guy, usually they're trading for the second half of the season. They want somebody to help them maybe make a playoff push this year. So you can't even risk Nurkic in that regard. And I think we're seeing that to a degree, though the DNP does suggest that you don't like him at all, which means that you're killing your own leverage to move him. And I don't even think they care.
No.
Like, just get him out of the building. Very, very addition by subtraction.
Exactly. So that'll be something to keep an eye on there. Keon, I know we wanted to get to the NFC West playoff matchups, but I think we're a little pressed for time.
We're a little pressed for time. So we're going to try and maybe get to that on the back end of the show. But let's go ahead and get to Alex Kane. He's coming up next, the CEO of Sport Trade, to unveil this week's win probability contest. We'll get you the rules, how you can win, what teams you should be looking at next, right here on Beat the Book on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
You okay?
I can't sleep with this cough.
Sounds like you need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize.
Yeah, with NyQuil VapoCool. It's NyQuil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
So you ready to get some sleep? Thank you, NyQuil VapoCool.
NyQuil VapoCool, the vaporizing nighttime coughing, aching, fever, best sleep with a cold medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey guys, Jeffrey O'Brien here. Did you know Harman Solar has gone super high tech? There's an amazing tool at harmansolar.com that'll give you an instant ballpark solar estimate using satellites from space. You just type in a little information, and within seconds, you'll have an idea of just how little money it takes to save big on that monthly electric bill. I did it, and within seconds, they measured my roof and calculated my savings. It's very impressive. Go to harmansolar.com and give it a try yourself. That's harmansolar.com.
I've just been feeling so sluggish lately. You should try the Metamucil 2-week challenge. The Metamucil 2-week challenge? Yeah, Metamucil 4-in-1 fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Start your daily routine now, and in 2 weeks, you could be feeling great. Well, it's been 2 weeks. How you feeling? Lighter and feeling great.
If you want to feel lighter by promoting digestive health, sign up to take the 2-week challenge at Metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
The GCU men's basketball squad is coming off their winningest season in 35 years, their third trip to the NCAA tournament in 4 years, and their first ever NCAA tournament victory. Returning 4 of their 5 starters in Ray Harrison, Colin Moore, Duke Brennan, and reigning WAC Player of the Year, Tyon Grant Foster, the Lopes look to defend their WAC titles and make a run to the Sweet 16. With a non-conference slate, including Stanford, Georgia, and crosstown rival Arizona State, you won't want to miss a moment of the action. So join me, Michael Potter, and Lopes insider Paul Coro all season long, right here on the home of the Lopes, 1580 The Fanatic. Lopes up.
Now open in Scottsdale. It's United Forte Custom Door Showroom with 40,000 Euro doors and hundreds of state-of-the-art designs and finishes on display, plus kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and more, all at wholesale prices. Builders, contractors, designers, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Forte, P-O-R-T-E. Stop by to see and feel the quality. United Forte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
Welcome back. You're listening to Beat the Book here on 1580 The Fanatic. I am your host, Dylan Cohen, and my co-host, Keon Rose, is in the control room. And you, the listener, are on the text line, 888-368-1580. And joining us right now is the CEO of Sport Trade, Alex Kane, here to roll out the next weekly win probability contest and to give us the latest on the Sport Trade app. Alex, how's it going, man? How are you?
What's up, guys? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And, it's really awesome to have you on again because for, the last few months, Sport Trade has been running a contest here on Beat the Book to help people understand the concept of betting using win probabilities. And each week we have had more and more people joining this contest and participating. It's been really awesome to see, and we want to keep this momentum going. So in the past, the contest was regarding Arizona Cardinals games, but now we're transitioning into the NFL playoffs. And obviously the Cardinals didn't make the playoffs, so things are going to have to be, changed a little bit here. So Alex, I was hoping you could just explain exactly what this contest is, how does it work, which game is it going to take place for now, how do you participate, and of course, what are the prizes if you win?
Absolutely. That's the differentiator of Sport Trade, right? Is we express our prices as probabilities. Dating back to the founding of Sport Trade, I just found that if we were going to try to build this marketplace and really make it feel like Robinhood, that we wanted a really simple way to reference prices. And what simpler way than the probabilities, right? Something we all learned from a very young age. And the contest is free to enter. The winner of the contest earns a $100 Amazon gift card. They also earn $50 cash into their Sport Trade account. All you're doing is guessing the win probability. And this is a special week. It's a playoff, so we're going to choose a team that's in the playoffs. You're going to guess the win probability of the Washington Commanders on the money line at halftime against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's what you're guessing. So right now, I think it's about 40% chance. I'll have to check the exact number for Washington. You're trying to guess what is that probability going to be at halftime. I'll get the exact number now. Washington, 40.5%. So let's call it 40%. So if they're up 17-3 at halftime, maybe they're 80%. If they're down 17-3 at halftime, maybe they're at, 15%. And you're trying to guess as close to as possible of what that number is going to be on Sporttrade at halftime without going over. And we determine the winner by whoever's closest without going over, and that person earns $100 Amazon gift card and $50 of Sporttrade cash.
So there you have it. If you have already participated in this contest, you know exactly how it goes. We are doing this on the Washington Commanders and Tampa Bay Buccaneers game that takes place on Sunday night. And you need to guess what the win probability percentage is going to be for the Washington Commanders, Keon's Washington Commanders at halftime. And we do Price is Right rules here. So just like Alex said, you cannot go over what the actual number ends up being. If you do, then you do not win. We are working with whoever gets it on the dot or whoever comes in closest that is under what that percentage is. So just as Alex said, if you're someone like Keon, you're a huge Commanders fan, you've got a lot of confidence in your team, you think they're going to be up 14-3 at half, it's probably skewing somewhere, maybe higher than 50%. But if it's not, that game's not going the way that, Keon's hoping it will, then it's probably going to be under 50%. What you cannot do is you cannot text us 0 or 100 because the game at halftime is not over. So it cannot be 0. It cannot be 100. You can send in your text submission now, 888-368-1580. And Alex, of course, if you don't already have that Sporttrade account signed up, you can still participate in this, right?
Absolutely. This is a great entry point to getting involved. We had a phenomenal game last night. Perfect example of how to use probabilities to your advantage. We had a customer make over $4,000 of profit betting on Penn State money line last night. You might think to yourself, wait a minute, Penn State lost. How could this player have won money betting on the Penn State money line? Well, what this customer did was in the third quarter, Penn State was trailing 17-10. They hit 20% on the money line. The customer brought a crap ton of Penn State at 20% and then sold it all at around 50% just 5 minutes later. Ended the game with no position and over $4,000 of profit in his pocket. So
wow,
that's really the advantage of Sporttrade is it's less about, look, if you want to just place your bet and let it ride, you can totally do that. We're going to give you a cool way to sort of follow along the win probability of that bet. But like this player, you can start to place more directional bets where you're kind of betting the flow of the game and saying, well, Penn State scores next, and then they get a turnover, and then they score again, which is exactly what happened. Where is this probability going to go? Penn State hit as high as, I think, 75 or 80% before ultimately going to 0. So last night was just a perfect example of how to leverage this platform to its fullest extent. And the contest of where do you think Washington's going to be at halftime sort of gets you in that mindset. So even if you're not a customer, check it out. It's free to enter. You get one guess per person. And if you win, who knows? Put $50. We'll put $50 into your account and you can try it for free.
So there you go. Perfect way to, get your foot in the door with Sporttrade. Again, the text line is 888-368-1580. You can participate in this win probability contest, even if you are not signed up for Sporttrade now. And if you win, they will give you the opportunity to create that account so they can then send you that $50 in cash that you can turn around and place extra wagers with, try and grow that money. Alex, just because you had mentioned that scenario now of someone buying low and selling high, I was just curious, is that promotion still going on where you guys were, giving some extra benefits for, opportunities where you buy low and you sell high?
Absolutely. We will, on top of the new user bonus, which is 10% cash back on every bet you place in your first week, we have a buy low, sell high promotion. And that one is if you buy low and sell high, obviously when you do that, you're going to make some sort of profit. This customer last night, over $4,000. That's more of an outlier, obviously, depending on the size. But when you make a profit, we'll tell you how much profit. And then we're going to double that amount for the first 5 times, up to $10 each, for maximum redemption amount of $50 in cash. So if you're a first-time player, you can stack all these. You can sign up for Sport Trade now. We'll send you a text. We'll walk you through how to do it. Texas at 33%. Man, is that a great way to get started on this? Not endorsing that trade in any way, shape, or form. But if you think you're going to stick in this game against Ohio State and they go up, you can sell it. And when you sell it, you're going to double that cash out, and you'll have earned 10% of the original bet you placed, because that's the first-time user promo. So we've got both of those promos rolling at the moment.
So, I was curious just to get some input from you about the Cotton Bowl game tonight, because that is a big showdown. Texas, Ohio State, 2 of the juggernauts of college football going at it. And, based off of their performances in the, previous games that they each played in the college football playoff, the line is skewing very heavily towards Ohio State in this matchup. And it may not necessarily be justified, just given that this game is taking place in Texas. It will be home field advantage for them. And Texas is an excellent team in their own right. What kind of action are you guys seeing right now on the Cotton Bowl game? Is the handle like really heavily skewing towards Ohio State? Are you guys seeing people play, money on Texas? What's that looking like?
So it's basically been all Ohio State. I'm looking at the tape right now and just refreshing it. $270 on Ohio State minus 6.5, $50 on Ohio State minus 7, $50 on Ohio State minus 6.5. And as I start to scroll down, I can start to see much larger bets, almost all on the Ohio State side. Another $270 on Ohio State minus 6.5. Another $150 on Ohio State minus 6.5. That's about the 50-50 line, maybe 6, depending on where you're looking. I haven't seen any Texas money on this tape. I'm scrolling now 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. Big NBA plays, big NHL plays. I think our biggest play last night was a $25,000 bet on Notre Dame. That customer is very happy. He or she did not cash out of the game, and smartly so. And I think we're going to start to see some of this $1,600 here, Ohio State minus 5.5. You'd be hard pressed to find a big bet on Texas so far. It's been, I think the market looked at what happened 2 weeks ago with Oregon and said, "Well, that's a good team. That team might be better than Texas." In fact, as you guys pain you to acknowledge, Texas shouldn't even be in this game. Arizona State should be in this game. Arizona State had Texas dead to rights, as I probably don't need to remind you. So I think a lot of people, that's fresh in their mind, and say home field advantage, be darned. I think Ohio State's going to roll, and I don't think we've seen any real Texas money to this point.
Well, and that's really been the gist of the betting among all sports books, because I was seeing even with Bet ESPN, Bet MGM, like over 80% of the handles leaning towards Ohio State. And I, on the one hand, I definitely feel like Ohio State is going to win, but I do see this game being a lot closer than a lot of people give it credit for. So, who knows? We'll have to see how that plays out. But, you had mentioned this thing, the tape that you were scrolling through to see all of this action and this transparency. We've talked about it before in the past, but for anyone that, is listening now and maybe doesn't know a whole lot about Sport Trade or hasn't heard us talk about the tape, would you mind just explaining what that is and, how people can maybe see that?
Absolutely. Download the mobile application on your tablet or your device. Currently, this is available on iOS. It will be shortly available on Android as well. You don't even have to be logged in. There's a tab at the very bottom called Tape, and just a real-time feed of every single bet that comes through. 22 minutes ago, someone bet $4,660 on Ohio State money line at 70% odds. I'm trying to scroll and see some of these other big bets. 3 minutes before that, someone put $4,443 on Ohio State minus 6.5. Minute before that, someone put $5,188 on Orlando Magic plus 7 against Milwaukee Bucks. This gives you a really good idea of where does the market like prices, where does the market, because if a market, the players on the marketplace, right? You could be looking at this Ohio State game and say, I like Ohio State, but 70% is too high. I buy them at 68%. And sure enough, over the course of the day, just like the stock market moves up, market moves down. And when the market moves down to a price where customers like it, boom, they strike. And they hop in on the game and they say, I didn't want to bet Ohio State 70, but now it's 68%, 10,000. And so, it's just another tool in your arsenal to see where the customers like certain bets. And if you do have an account and you do like a bet, you say, wow, someone just put, here's another $275, 51 seconds ago on Ohio State minus 6.5. Swipe right on that bet, enter your bet, press submit. And then when you close the window back down, you'll actually see your bet on the tape. And that's the idea, right? We're a marketplace. We want to show you it's a real time thing. It's a living, breathing ecosystem.
And I have to say, just to give anyone that, places a wager through Sporttrade that level of transparency, that is just a complete leg up compared to all the other sports books that are operating in Arizona. No one else is letting you really look under the hood like this. They might tell you, percentage of all the bets or percentage of all the money is on this or that. But to break it down to every single individual bet that comes through, it to me is just a very next level feature. I think at some point it seems like all the books might have to gravitate and, add some kind of a feature like this, because I could see this really just becoming the new norm of, any sport betting platform. Alex, I wanted to kind of backtrack to a comment you had made before, because this is also one of my favorite things about Sporttrade. When you sign up for Sporttrade, like one of the first things that happens is you receive a text message. And it was a really awesome thing to experience myself, because I've come into scenarios with other sports betting apps where, I'm not understanding something, or I need clarity, or there's like a legitimate tech issue that is preventing me from doing something. And then you go through the whole ringer of their customer service and it's just a nightmare. You're stuck with some AI chatbot. You don't get a response back for like 12 hours. You're pulling your hair out, you're stressing over it, and you have no idea what's going to happen. Sporttrade really cuts through all that tape. And as soon as you sign up, you get this immediate point of contact through text message. Would you mind just kind of talking about like sort of like the concierge level customer service and, the ways that you can communicate with Sporttrade to even potentially get like better odds, on a potential bet you want to make?
Totally. We recognize that when you open this app, it's different. It does not look like a sports book. And so to address that, when customers create an account, we send them a text and say, hey, totally understand what you're looking at is different. We're here to show you how it's better. And we're also here to make sure you have a good experience. And customers can't believe it at first. They're like, this is spam. Is this actually Alex? Is this a real human? And those are our favorite texts, because we could say, absolutely. How can we help you? Want to get on the phone? How can we show you that this is a better way to bet? But whether it's, I forgot my password, I need to reset my email, my deposit's not working. How does this work? All the way down to something more involved. Hey, Ohio State's at 69. Can I get them at 68? Or there's $5,000 available at 69 and I'm a VIP player and I want to bet 10,000. Can I do that? These are all things that our text service, of which I'm very, very involved personally, takes on with a lot of pride. And then that is a very differentiating way to treat the customer.
Yeah, Alex, I was just going to say, like, as a person who's used like multiple apps, like unless you're the high roller, a lot of these other apps just don't even notice you. You don't get the same response as someone who's betting thousands, and then they'll reach out to you and make sure you're taken care of. And I think that just being just your average bettor, just trying to figure out what's going on, you're the person that kind of needs help the most, and being able to get that, I think, is really cool.
Yeah, I take up the pride. And anyone that wants to take the leap and try something entirely new is my best friend. And I'm here to show you how different this is. Because once you experience it, we had a customer try it. In fact, the customer that made $4,000 last night, brand new customer, he could not believe it. He was like, where has this been my whole life? The fact that I can buy in and cash out at such a fair price and not have to worry, is this cash out value fair? Am I getting ripped off? It's clear that I'm getting really fair value. It changes the game. And so if you're out there and you're thinking, hey, I want to try something new, try Sporttrade. We'll send you a text.
Well, there you go. You heard it from the CEO himself, Alex Kane. Sign up for Sporttrade. You get that text message right away. Any immediate questions, concerns, any reasons to need clarity on anything, you've got that direct line of communication ready to go. It's just one of the many things that makes the Sporttrade advantage a real thing. So make sure you download Sporttrade, get on there, experience what we're talking about. And Alex, thank you so much for all your time, man. It's always great to have you on. I hope you have a great weekend.
Likewise, guys. Enjoy the game.
Appreciate it. So that was Alex Kane, CEO of Sporttrade. He just rolled out the next win probability contest. It's going to be for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Washington Commanders game taking place on Sunday night. You can text us your submissions. You are guessing what the win probability percentage is going to be for the Commanders at halftime of that game. You can send that to 888-368-1580. We need to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we are going to go through the NFC playoff matchups this weekend. So we will be talking a little bit more Commanders and Buccaneers, given our insights on these matchups, and of course, recommending some bets to make. So do not miss out on that. You are listening to Beat the Book here on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time and switch to the expensive shampoo with amino acids. Sure, you don't know what those are or why you need them, but it sounds very impressive. And if you switch and save hundreds, you can massage it into your scalp every day. Now, if only you can get people to lean toward your hand to smell those aminos. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time. For shampoo, Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
We all know just because gifts for loved ones can look like flowers, a spa day, or maybe even planning date night. But what about something that will truly last and protect your loved ones along the way? I'm talking about life insurance. I called SelectQuote to secure our coverage and couldn't believe how easy and affordable it was. I'm 40, and my $500,000 policy was only $16 a month. My husband's also 40, and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. And with their same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. With monthly payments less than the cost of a bouquet of flowers, this is the perfect time to make sure your family is protected.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-596-2626 or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-596-2626. 1-800-596-2626. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Sports betting apps are not created equal. Dylan Cohen from Beat the Book here to talk about the Sporttrade advantage. With higher payouts, Sporttrade is the ultimate sports betting experience. Sporttrade is the first sports betting app that gives you the option to see the odds expressed as probabilities, and it's changing in-game betting forever. If it's easier to understand 52% probability of winning versus minus 108 odds, then Sporttrade is for you. With this percent odds feature, cashing out now makes much more sense. As the win probability changes, so does the value of your bet. And if you're an experienced bettor and prefer American odds, you'll get pricing closer to minus 106 versus the normal minus 110, coupled with instant in-play betting. No more spinny wheels. So download Sporttrade today to see the difference and beat the book. Use promo code 1580 to earn 10% cash back on every bet you place in your first week. Terms apply.
Sporttrade is regulated by the Arizona Department of Gaming. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP.
With all the school supplies your child will need over the years, it can be easy to overlook the most important one of all, money, which is a good reason to open an AZ 529 education savings plan. Whether you invest $15 or $150 a month, your money grows tax-free. By the time your little one is ready for college, vocational school, or workforce training, they'll have all the savings they need to get the job of their dreams. Visit az529.gov to get started.
This message is sponsored by the Office of the Arizona State Treasurer.
We know how it goes. You can't always tune in and hear your favorite shows and hosts.
Dude, look, I'm a loser. Okay?
It's cool, bro. That's why we post podcasts of your favorite shows and hosts. Listen when you want to. Listen on demand.
That is great and frankly kind of amazing.
Go to 1580thefanatic.com to download.
So let's rock and roll. We've got the Sporttrade win probability contest featuring my Washington Commanders this week, and I'm seeing a lot of the text coming in, so appreciate the guesses there. Hefty Lefty, Swazman, Whiskey Tailgate Friend, Biscuits and Gravy, Sir Drives a Lot,
Golden Domer. There's not a whole lot of believers in my team this week, and you know what? I'm not taking it personally, but it hurts a little. It hurts a little. I'm not gonna lie. It stings somewhere deep down inside, but we'll talk about that here in just a moment. We've got the NFC games, all of them, by the way, not just the NFC, but the AFC games, the Super Wild Card Weekend. That's here on 1580 The Fanatic. We've got every single game for you, so you can overdose on football. So we'll get to the NFC. Talked about the AFC yesterday, and the NFC also looks fascinating to the point where I think some of the better games are actually on this side of the bracket.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. At least the ones that seem like they have the highest potential to really just be like a close,
some thriller
showdown.
potential. Yeah,
absolutely. Why don't we start off with the Packers and the Eagles here? And this matchup, if you look at the line, among the NFC games, this is the one that has the biggest line. This is the one that odds makers think will be the most one-sided. And right now, the Philadelphia Eagles are a 4.5 point favorite over at FanDuel, minus 245 on the money line. And if you're a Green Bay Packers fan, you can get right now 2-1 odds on the money line, or you can take them to cover the spread plus 4.5. And when we kind of initially looked at these lines earlier this week, I felt like the Packers had value. I want to say that, like, on the money line, that payout was bigger, like a few days ago when we initially talked about this, and it looks like things have kind of maybe swayed
even out a little bit.
Yeah. Now we were talking about some of these matchups before the show went on, and I started to think back to last season because I was like, didn't the Packers go into their first playoff game last year as like a big underdog? And I was like trying to remember who it was, because I do remember, they won and it was an upset. And I'm like, I found it on ESPN, found the box score. Oh yeah, it was against the Cowboys. And oh, hey, look, by the way, they even have what the line was before that game. So just something to put into perspective here. Anyone that's looking to place a wager on Packers and Eagles, the Green Bay Packers squared off against the Dallas Cowboys in the first round of the playoffs last year. They were a 7.5 point underdog and won the game by 16 points. So anyone that is like looking at this matchup and is just counting Green Bay out because they're so banged up and, they're missing Christian Watson and, the guys are just not healthy and, they're just going to try and grind it out. And this Eagles team is so good and they've just been so dominant. Like, I don't buy into that narrative. And, we've talked a bit on this show about some of the kind of questionable aspects about that Eagles locker room right now. Like, I think those guys are a cohesive unit, but how much do they buy into Nick Sirianni and his antics, and how does all that kind of help them gel? And then, are they really going into the postseason like as a very good cohesive unit? And I don't like that element. I think that that's a cloud that is hanging over that team a bit, and it's going to boil down to whether or not Saquon Barkley's greatness, is that going to be enough to propel the Eagles, to win that game? And it very well could be. And this one could come down to a final field goal. For me, I'm actually going with the Green Bay Packers. I like them on the money line. I think this is just the higher value bet to make in this game. Keon, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, not only do I think it's the higher value bet, I think people are really underestimating the Packers a lot. And I think that they are overestimating how good Jalen Hurts is going to be after 2 weeks of not playing football. And I'm not talking about games. I'm also talking about practice. Football is a sport that requires you to be in a different level of shape. And I can just say this as just like a random casual person that goes to the gym. Thanksgiving week was very hard on me because I didn't. And I'm not saying Jalen Hurts has been eating the entire time, but what I'm saying is you miss 2 weeks at the gym and then you go back and do some squats, you feel it. He hasn't been able to work out. He hasn't been able to practice. He just returned to practice yesterday. And I think that, he's coming along to where he probably is going to play on Sunday. All the signs point towards that. But is he going to be Jalen Hurts, whose legs are the most important part of his game? I don't know. And I think that you're also, like, if you look at the Packers defense, what they've been able to do, they have been an incredible defense all year long. They force a bunch of turnovers. They force a bunch of mistakes. I don't think that this is the kind of team that you can just put A.J. Brown out there and Devontae Smith and say, oh, these guys are going to tear this defense apart. Like, that's just not the kind of defense that Green Bay has. And when you add to that, the fact that Green Bay is missing Jaden Reed, but when you look at all the other weapons that they have on that roster, whether you're talking about Romeo Dobbs or Dontavian Wicks, like, they just have so many different places they can go to. The tight end, Tucker Kraft, they just have a lot. They're very loaded as a team. If I thought Jalen Hurts was absolutely going to be 100%, I'd probably just take the Eagles and forget about it. But I think that this game's going to be closer than a lot of people realize. And I think that the Packers have a lot of different ways of attacking this Eagles defense, which is great against the run. So there's a chance they could slow the Packers down running the football. But the Packers are also really good at passing the football underneath. The short to intermediate game is a big part of what they do as well. Like, I just think that the Packers play in a way that they're very varied. They've got levels to their game. Not that the Eagles don't, but I think the Eagles have some factors working against them. And like you said, is Saquon Barkley enough to single-handedly overcome all of that? Maybe, but I don't know that that's necessarily true.
Well, and I think something that doesn't get talked about enough too is just how well Josh Jacobs has been playing over the last 5 games of the regular season. The man has 7 touchdowns over his last 5 games, with a touchdown, at least one, in every single matchup. So I think he's going to be key in this game. If they can get his running game going early, it's going to open up the field a bit more for those Packers wide receivers that'll be out there. And we know Jordan Love is not afraid to sling that football. You could see some big yardage plays there. And the thing I like the most about this for the Packers is just that they've been here before. Like, this is the exact same spot that they were in going into the playoffs last year. And they came through, they beat the crap out of the Dallas Cowboys. Like, they have so much confidence just feeding from what happened to them last year that I don't think they're, going into Philadelphia and, feeling any kind of doubt about their ability to go there and win that game. So that is our pick there. Take Green Bay Packers on the money line. Keon, let's jump over to the big one, Sunday night, Commanders, Buccaneers. I'm going to go ahead and lean towards Commanders, and that's not just, to please you or anything like that. I do have concerns about this Buccaneers team right now in terms of just the injuries on the offense, who's going to be available for Baker Mayfield, as a target for him. If you saw that final game against the Saints, that was not an easy win for the Buccaneers, and it should have been. So I just kind of have red flags right now about the Buccaneers based on the most recent football that I've seen from them. That's my take on it. How are you feeling about this matchup, Keon?
We're low on time, so I'll just keep it brief. I'm leaning Commanders too, not just because they're my team, but because, like you said, the lack of weapons for the Buccaneers. Marshawn Lattimore is playing. The last time we saw him, he was getting cooked by A.J. Brown, but he was playing through an injury at that time as well. I think a healthier Marshawn Lattimore, taking away Mike Evans and reducing Baker's targets even more, give the Commanders a chance to take the lead in a game where they're attacking a defense that's, quite frankly, just not very good against the pass. I think that there's a lot there for Jaden Daniels to exploit, and I'm going to take the Commanders in that one.
So there you go. Final game, Vikings-Rams, Monday night, State Farm Stadium here in Glendale. The game was moved due to the wildfires in LA. Prior to the move, this one was priced pretty much as a pick-em. Now, since it moved to Arizona, the line has slightly moved in favor of the Vikings. And as far as how I see this one, I think this fire and this whole just kind of change of routine and, where this game is going to be, I think that's going to get to the Rams a lot more than it's going to get to the Vikings. Air quality in LA over the last few days has not been good. I don't know how the Rams are practicing right now. If they have an indoor facility, then, they're set. I know the Chargers are battling, they have an outdoor facility, so they can't even practice consistently. So I think this thing throws the Rams out of whack. Take the Vikings on the money line. What do you think, Keon?
Yeah, I think that the Vikings, the last time they had to play the Rams, they just had a really bad game. I don't think that you get that again. I also haven't seen the Vikings have 2 bad games in a row. I'll take the Vikings.
So there you have it.
So that'll do it for us. We've got a lot of texts on the text line. I'll see if I can try and get to as many of them as I can. Let's see here. Hefty Lefty says, it's not that I don't believe in your Commanders. I just think they're a second half team. So I'll go ahead and take that. I don't remember who it was that texted earlier about, whether or not Sport Trade is going to get PayPal. I think maybe it was Baker's Cocky Hens.
make sure you text the person who texted you when you join Sport Trade. They're going to be more likely to have an answer for you on that. Devil Hawk beating his chest about his prediction about Notre Dame or about the Suns beating the Hawks. Congratulations to you. And, well, I'll give props to the priest that also predicted the Notre Dame game as well.
I'm Taylor Bishotti with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. Jalen Hurts was back on the practice field for the first time Thursday since suffering a concussion week 16.